The hunger inside of me is back and I want to prove people wrong. Phil Foden, after scoring in Manchester City's first game in the Club World Cup, and it's fair to say that he's having a very good Club World Cup so far. He's making an impact to Manchester City, and this is what Phil Foden needs, because this upcoming season, the 2025-26 season, is the biggest of his career. I'm going to be talking about Phil Foden. I'm going to be talking about his rise to Manchester City's first team, the season that he just had, which was disappointing, and what he has to do to bounce back to prove people wrong. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Add up my social, which will be down in the description below. And yeah, man, let's get into this one. So, Philip Foden, 25 years of age. He's coming back off a disappointing season, to say the least. And all the talk about him being the inevitable Kevin De Bruyne replacement, as it stands right now, is not going to plan the way people thought. And it's crazy to say, because Phil Foden's resume, he's one of the most decorated players in the game. He has 6 Premier League titles, 2 FA Cups, 4 League Cups, a Champions League, Super Cup, Club World Cup, and for most of the trophies that he's won, he's actually played a pivotal role in that. But many people will say he was part of a great team, so automatically he will look good. When pressure is really on him to be the main man for the team, he can't rise to the occasion. And even though some of the things that people say are harsh, there's some truth into that. Because obviously, before I get into Phil Foden's rise, they're making a comparison right now. ESPN, they put out a picture. Who would you rather have in your team? Phil Foden or Florian Wirtz? And this leads me on perfectly to my next point. Now that the number 10s in the Premier League is hotting up, obviously Shirky's joined Manchester City. Arsenal got Odegaard, even though I don't think he's a 10 personally. Bruno Fernandes, Cole Palmer, now Florian Wirtz. Phil Foden's levels will have to rise to basically to elite level in this upcoming season. And that will play a big role in proving people wrong. So I'm not even going to get into that comparison because I think people just want to engage for him. But I'm going to talk about Phil Foden's rise to the top. So he broke through. Obviously, he became one of the youngest Premier League players to win the Premier League. But let's be real, 17, 18, 18, 19, he didn't really play a big part in Manchester City's title wins. Even though he got that goal in 18, 19 against Tottenham in the title race, that was pivotal. So 19-20, when he eventually broke through to the team, 23 games in the Premier League, 5 goals, 2 assists. And I remember in lockdown, he was performing well for Manchester City. The game against us, when they smashed us 4-0 after we won the league, he was man of the match. He was causing all sorts of problems. The goal against Watford, obviously the performance against Burnley in lockdown as well. Like, he was doing this thing, Phil Foden. And in the Champions League, 5 games, 2 goals, 2 assists. So he was putting in some good performances in the Champions League and he was getting numbers. Then the 2020-21 season, that's when everyone started to take notice about Phil Foden. False 9 Phil Foden, in my personal opinion, that's my favourite version of Phil Foden. Because people was calling him the Stockport Iniesta. He was doing some insane stuff that season. So, and he won Young Player of the Year. He's one of, I think, 3 or 4 players in Premier League history to win back-to-back Young Players of the Seasons. Young Player of the Year, after Dele Alli done it, Wayne Rooney done it. So I think he's the 3rd person in Premier League history to do so. But in the 2020-21 season, he got 9 goals, 5 assists. Obviously, the famous goal came against us at Anfield when he literally smashed the ball into the top corner. Obviously, he got the goal against Aston Villa, the goal against Brighton as well. Like, he was putting in some sensational performances, not just in the Premier League, but also in the Champions League. Yes, he got 3 goals, 3 assists in 13 games in the Champions League, but that does him a total injustice. Because what he was doing in that run-up to the Champions League final was the stuff of dreams. Got the vital goal against Dortmund in the quarterfinals. Performed to an amazing level against PSG in the semi-finals. And then in the final, obviously, Chelsea did their number on him. So, yeah, man. In total, he played over 50 games, got 16 goals and 10 assists. Obviously, let's go to the 21-22 season. He kept up this level, played 28 times. Pretty much got the same statistics. 9 goals, 5 assists as he won PFA Young Player of the Year. Again, 45 games, 14 goals, 11 assists. You know, Phil Foden was getting a reputation for turning up in the big games. Because when it came to big game performances, he rose to the occasion, yeah? So that's what, and this is coming from a person, I'm a massive Phil Foden fan, innit? I know people don't really feel like Phil Foden is up to the level that people make out, but I still think on his day, Phil Foden is one of the best, very best players in the Premier League on his day. And he needs to show that in this upcoming season. Obviously, the 22-23 season, if I can get it up right now. In the Premier League, he got 11 goals, 5 assists in 32 games. In the Champions League, he played 8 games, 1 goal. So even though he played games in the Premier League, I don't feel like Phil Foden performed to the level that he had done in the previous 2 seasons prior to that treble-winning season for Manchester City. That's just in my opinion. You can still see that he still had a part to play in that Manchester City's team because his technical ability is amazing. The way he can play in the pockets, and he has an eye for goal, and which was shown in the following season, which is undoubtedly many people will say is Phil Foden's best season. 35 games, 19 goals, 8 assists, no penalties. 27 goals and 13 assists in all competitions. And obviously, he went up to a different level. Hat-trick against Brentford, away from home in a vital game. The goal against Manchester United to bring his side level. The double, in fact, against Manchester United to virtually win them the game. Obviously, the hat-trick against Aston Villa in the title running. The goal against Brighton in the title running. And the big one, final game of the season to win inside the league. 78 seconds in, takes the ball, one touch, whap, into the top corner. Got 2 goals as Manchester City won their 4th consecutive Premier League title. And his blueprints was all over it. Even though I personally believe Rodri was the best player for Manchester City in the 23-24 season, which was highlighted the season that just went, Phil Foden was doing his damn thing. And he was rewarded with PFA Player of the Year and Premier League Player of the Season. So Phil Foden's stock definitely rose to a different level at the end of 23-24. But then this is where it started to go downhill. The Euros he had in Euro 2024 was not the greatest in the slightest. Let me just keep it like that. And then last season was by far the worst season of his career so far. 28 games, 7 goals, 2 assists. Champions League, 3 goals, 2 assists. Obviously 11 goals, 7 assists in all competitions. So Phil Foden's levels definitely dropped for various reasons. You know, off the pitch, he might have went through something. On the pitch, he didn't look happy. That there was something clearly wrong with Phil Foden, and it was highlighted on the pitch. He said Manchester City was going through the biggest adversity they went through in Pep Guardiola's era as Manchester City's manager, and they needed Phil Foden to get them out of trouble, and he couldn't do that. He was hiding. He weren't performing to the level, and people was really starting to question, is he a system player? Because when it comes to him, in terms of being that maverick, to create something out of nothing, he wasn't showing that last season. There was countless games. Tottenham, when Manchester City got beaten 4-0, he never turned up. Both Liverpool games, he never turned up. Brighton, away, he never turned up. Arsenal, never turned up. Gave the ball away for Thomas Partey to score in that 5-1 battering. And yeah, man. So last season definitely was a stinker for Phil Foden. But to analyse his time as Manchester City so far, it's been highs, so many highs, but last season was definitely a low. So how does he bounce back from it? It's very simple. He improves on his game even more, and he works on things that weren't showing last season, as well as mentally being strong, because it's a new season, which means fresh hope, fresh ideas, potentially new system, and Phil Foden, is about time he makes his claim as a first teamer properly, because we thought he'd done that in 23-24, but then last season was a stinker. So what do I expect from Phil Foden? I expect Phil Foden to come back strong. I expect him to get double figures in goals. And I expect him to get double figures in assists, because he's capable of doing that. We've seen it. He's capable of rising to the occasion. Now Rodri's back, that will help him even more. With Reinders being brought in, with the likes of Shirky, Marmoush with him as well, Surely it ups Phil Foden's game. Surely. Because Phil Foden is a talented player. I refuse to believe Phil Foden is a scrub. Because when he's at his best, like I said, he's one of the very best players in Europe. And he's one of the most creative players England has. Potentially the most creative player England has. But when he performs for England, it's not great at all. So is a bit of a sticky one with Phil Foden. But what I will say is that Phil Foden needs to bounce back. I believe he will because he's a talented player. But he can't have a season like he did last season. Because if he has a season that he had last season, all the props that Phil Foden had over his career, it will slowly start to diminish. It will slowly start to diminish. And this is coming from a person, like I said, who's a massive fan of Phil Foden, but I have to call it what it is. And last season was not good enough. But the seasons prior, he was on such a trajectory. You get what I'm trying to say? So he needs to get back to them levels. So yeah, man. What do you think of Phil Foden? How do you think he's going to perform next season? What's your expectations of Phil Foden for the upcoming season? And you can see that he has the hunger, given that the Club World Cup performance says he's actually performed well. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. And more videos will be out, man. Consistencies never stop. You get what I'm trying to say? So, yeah, man. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you guys for watching. I'm out.